just said in the time was 60. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right. Good morning. This is Professor Charles Jeffries for Rainier Avenue Radio. And since today is Veterans Day, I wanted to give tribute to African American veterans. Okay, and actually African Americans have fought every war this country had. We fought in the Revolutionary War. I think it was Revolutionary War. We fought on both sides. We fought on the side, some fought on the side of the British, some fought on the side of Americans. The folks who fought on the side of the British were basically, well, you could go free. Okay, so they got and they also got, some got land in Jamaica and some got land in Nova Scotia. Okay, then the Civil War. Once again, you had African Americans fighting the Civil War. And then we have, then the post-Civil War, the Buffalo Soldiers continue to fight. They fought against the Klan, and also they fought quote so-called Indian Wars, okay, and also the Spanish-American War. And then World War I, you had your Hell Fighters, and who were a group of African Americans, which was interesting because African Americans during World War I fought for the French because Americans had segregated troops, and they once again they were some of the best fighters there. And then World War II, my father was a veteran. He was in World War II. He was stationed in Italy and North Africa. Anyway, could you show the first 3 videos?
Did you know that thousands of black soldiers fought in the American Revolutionary War? Both free and enslaved men joined the Continental Army, seeking freedom and a new future. Some, like Peter Salem, played key roles in pivotal battles such as Bunker Hill. Many served as infantry, drummers, and spies, despite facing discrimination and broken promises. Their courage and sacrifice were vital to the war's outcome. These patriots paved the way for future generations, reminding us that the fight for liberty was shaped by diverse hands.
When it comes to American history, I would almost guarantee that no 4 years have been studied, debated, and picked apart more than 1861 through 1865, the Civil War. While the Revolutionary War created the concept of America, the Civil War defined the reality of a democracy. There were so many courageous African Americans involved in this crucial conflict, whose bravery deserves all of our recognition. By taking a closer look at these black patriots of the Civil War, my hope is that we can come to understand that these heroic African Americans are part of a history we all share. When it came time for someone to stand up and go out and fight, black Americans were just waiting for the opportunity. The increased manpower of the Union Army gave them a tremendous advantage on the battlefield. The first black volunteers to fight in the Civil War really showed the willingness of free blacks to go out and do what they could to make our country what it was supposed to be. That's the story of the 1st Kansas Colored Volunteer Infantry Regiment and William Matthews.
William Matthews was born free. In the late 1840s, he settled in Baltimore, but discriminatory laws made it hard for him to make a living. So he just decided, the heck with it, I'm going to go somewhere where, I can be freer.
Matthews settles in Kansas and opens a boarding house, which also serves as a station on the Underground Railroad. When Kansas Senator Jim Lane musters a black regiment due to a shortage of eligible white soldiers, Matthews is tapped to help with recruitment.
Jim Lane decides to recruit black units, and he reports this to the War Department, and he gets responses, well, this has not been authorized, but then he just goes ahead and does it anyway.
The first Kansas is unique because it's organized in Kansas. It is free black men who volunteer in 1862.
Matthews was a wonderful recruiter. He became kind of the animating spirit in the regiment.
Matthews wanted to prove not only that black soldiers could fight, but that black officers could lead. And he took it very personally that his unit become highly trained, highly experienced, the best trained company in the regiment.
It's the American frontier, 1866. White America had just survived a civil war that nearly tore the nation apart. They thought they could control what came next, including 4 million newly freed black people. They were wrong. In July of that same year, something unprecedented happened. Congress authorized the creation of the first peacetime all-black army regiments, 6 regiments of armed, disciplined, federally backed black soldiers. But these weren't just any military units. They were about to become one of the most feared and respected fighting forces in American history. Men who would earn a name that struck terror into the hearts of races across the frontier. The Plains tribes called them Buffalo Soldiers, warriors as fierce and unstoppable as the sacred buffalo. What happened next was so extraordinary that white officers would literally quit their commissions rather than command these men. These regiments were led by men like Charles Young and Henry Flipper, and they would accomplish something that had never been done before, forcing racist America to respect black military excellence. This is the story about soldiers who turned the uniform into a weapon of resistance. A story about black men who became America's first park rangers. In 1866, Congress creates the first peacetime all-black army regiments, the 9th and 10th Cavalry, and the 24th and 25th Infantry. For black men fresh out of slavery, this was like hitting the lottery. Steady pay of $13 a month when most black folks were making pennies. 3 meals a day, a roof over your head, and something white America couldn't stand, respect that came with the uniform. These weren't just jobs, they were paths to dignity in a country that had spent centuries denying black people basic humanity. The Army offered structure, purpose, and most importantly, weapons. Backed by federal authority, for the first time in American history, black men could walk tall, armed, and legally protected. But white America was not having it. White officers literally quit rather than command black troops. Some took demotions just to avoid leading these regiments. George Armstrong Custer, yeah, that Custer, refused to command black soldiers even though it cost him a promotion. The Army responded by sending these black regiments to the absolute worst, most dangerous, most isolated posts they could find. The Wild West frontier, where survival wasn't guaranteed and backup was days away. They got the worst equipment, leftover Civil War gear that was falling apart. Their horses were broken down, their saddles barely fit. Commanding officers wrote angry letters about how these men were being set up to fail with trash equipment. The message was clear: we'll give you this opportunity, but we'll make damn sure you fail at it. These soldiers had a choice: prove the racists right by failing, or do something that would shake white America to its core.
Yeah, think about that. In other words, proving themselves every war. And then you talk about World War I, Hellfighter. They said African Americans fought in thousands of African Americans fought in World War I under the French guide. Okay, we're going to that one.
This is why you need to know about the Buffalo Soldiers. Their bravery changed history. Picture this. It's 1898, the Spanish-American War. Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders are charging up San Juan Hill, right? But here's the kicker. They weren't alone. The Buffalo Soldiers, brave black troops, were fighting right beside them, facing danger head-on. So why don't they get the same spotlight? It's partly savvy PR. Roosevelt was a master at self-promotion. But let's not ignore the elephant in the room, racial bias. Back then, stories of black heroism weren't exactly front-page news. These soldiers deserve to be remembered for their courage and sacrifices. They helped shape history, and it's high time we give credit where it's due. So next time you hear about the Rough Riders, remember the Buffalo Soldiers too. American by birth, patriot by blood.
Posse, the movie Posse, Mario Van Peebles and his dad were in that movie. I guess Mario was the main character in that. And that basically opened up in Cuba. So in other words, Mario Van Peebles and those individuals were playing the roles of soldiers who fought under Theodore Roosevelt. World War I.
Harlem Hellfighters were the first African-American regiment in World War I who were assigned to the French forces. None were captured, they never lost a trench, or a foot of ground to the enemy. They returned to the United States as one of the most successful regiments of World War I.
World War II also, but like I said, each war is the same pattern. We need to go out there and fight, and we're going to prove ourselves, and when we come back, they're going to say, hey, thanks a lot, and we appreciate it, and we're going to respect you like everybody else. In every war, the same thing comes up. And also, kind of like Groundhog Day, there's the same argument where blacks can't compete, can't fight, they're not going to be good soldiers. But each war, they say the same thing, even though they didn't learn from the Revolutionary War, they didn't learn from the Civil War, they learned from World War I. Each one, it comes back, it's like they have amnesia. They can't remember how African Americans fought valiantly in each one of these wars. Okay,
they fought for freedom abroad while being denied it at home. During World War II, over 1 million African and African American soldiers served in critical roles across the Allied forces. Units like the Tuskegee Airmen, the first African American fighter pilots, defied racism and proved their excellence in the skies, while the 761 St. Tank Battalion, known as the Black Panthers, fought valiantly in battles like the Battle of the Bulge. These soldiers not only risked their lives on the front lines, but also supported the war effort by driving supply convoys, building airfields, and maintaining communication networks. Despite their immense contributions, they returned to a segregated America, still fighting for the very freedoms they defended abroad. Their service became a cornerstone of the civil rights movement, challenging a nation to live up to its ideals of equality and justice.
Think about that. I said every war is the same thing. We come out, we're going to fight. And then the thing about it, Germans, their image as African Americans, what they were taught in school was different. And then a lot of them were surprised when they actually met American soldiers.
Don't worry, you're safe now. We have to consider every possible outcome.
I understand the risks, but we have no choice.
Thank you for all that you've done for us.
It's not much, but it's all we have.
Thank you so much.
April 29, 1945, Heidelberg, Germany. The bombing had ended 2 weeks earlier, but 21-year-old Clara Bergman still couldn't sleep through the night without waking in terror. She moved through the skeletal remains of her family's bakery, salvaging flour from broken sacks, when she heard them. The engines. American engines. Her aunt, Margaret, seized her wrist with surprising force. Inside. Now. Don't let them see you. Everything Clara had been taught in 12 years of Nazi education told her this moment would be her last. But when the convoy rumbled to a stop and soldiers dismounted, Clara's breath caught in her throat. These weren't the soldiers from the propaganda films. These American soldiers were black. The Reich's education system had been explicit. White Americans were depicted as corrupt capitalists and gangsters. But black soldiers? The textbooks called them Untermenschen, subhuman. The biology classes said they were closer to animals than people. Incapable of reason, civilization, or self-control. Private First Class William Hayes, originally from Georgia, stepped forward slowly. He wore the insignia of the 183rd Engineer Combat Battalion. His hands were visible, empty, non-threatening. Then he spoke in halting, careful German. Wir haben Wasser, Medizin, verstehen Sie? Clara's entire understanding of the world fractured in that moment, because the voice that spoke those words was patient, measured, human, and every single thing she'd been taught said that was impossible.
About that in terms of expectations, how they expected us in all the textbooks, and they come out and actually meet some African Americans, and it's a total different experience. Okay, now we're talking about a tank division called Black Panthers. They were the original Black Panthers before the political power party.
In World War II, the 761st Tank Battalion made history as one of the first African American armored units in combat. They called themselves the Black Panthers. Nicknamed the original Black Panthers, this brave group of men faced not only the horrors of war, but also the harsh realities of segregation. Deployed in 1944, they fought in the Battle of the Bulge, the liberation of France, and the final push into Nazi Germany. Their motto, "Come out fighting." Despite their incredible bravery and skill, recognition was slow to come. But their legacy lives on as pioneers who shattered racial barriers in the U.S. military. The 761st Tank Battalion's courage paved the way for future generations, proving that valor knows no color.
And then finally came the Tuskegee Airmen, who were also a part of World War II. I actually had the opportunity to meet 4 of them. Okay, and that was really interesting. 3 of them in Seattle, and then one of them, Chappie James, I knew his niece. I grew up with his nieces. And so
they said we couldn't fly. The story of the Tuskegee Airmen. What if I told you that they said black men weren't smart enough, weren't skilled enough, weren't brave enough to fly? Would you believe they tried to keep us out of the skies? I am a Tuskegee Airman, and I proved them wrong. In a time when racism tried to clip our wings, we soared higher than anyone expected. We trained, we fought, and we flew with precision, protecting bombers in World War II better than any other unit. They tried to erase us, to doubt us, to hold us back, but we shattered barriers and made history. Our success was not just about flying, it was about proving that black excellence could not be denied.
They never lost a bomber. They were basically bomber escorts, in other words, and they shot down the first German Jeeps too, or jet planes, jet-powered engines, but they never lost them to where they actually requested them. In terms of, they thought, well, these never lost a bomber. A lot of the white pilots and fighter pilots would run at certain times or weren't effective, where Tuskegee Airmen were the best out there. Okay, then we'll fast forward to the Korean War. Look at the Korean War, and you had the first black general in the Marines, but he started out, he took the test for the Navy, and he made one of the highest scores ever on the test, and they told him he was going to work in the kitchen. Okay, it'd be as a cook, what all the other blacks who were with the Navy at that time were expected to do, but he went on and became a pilot. Okay, and he finished the first black general for the Marines. Frank, go ahead.
Ever heard of the first African-American Marine Corps aviator in general? Meet Frankie Peterson Jr., a trailblazer in military aviation and history. In 1952, Peterson broke racial barriers by becoming the first African-American aviator in the Marine Corps. He didn't stop there. Rising through the ranks, he became the first African-American Marine Corps general, inspiring countless others. Peterson logged over 4,000 flight hours and 350 combat missions in Korea and Vietnam, proving his exceptional skill and dedication. Courage is not the absence of fear, but...
I read his autobiography. This was quite a few years ago, and it's really an amazing historical issue, because he talked about how he was there during the Korean War, and he also was a pilot during the Vietnam War, and he talked about how the transition of the soldiers after integration came in. So he's really a really fascinating person to read. Okay, and now let's talk about Vietnam. Okay, the Vietnam War. That was my age. That was my generation. I went to college. Okay, instead of and then I got one of the last, what they call student deferrals. In other words, they get 2S. Basically, you got that, and then when you graduated from college, you could go into the military that way. And but by the time I graduated from college, the war was over. But everybody I knew who went to I also knew a lot of white vets as well who went to Vietnam, and almost everybody knew who went to Vietnam came back kind of messed up. Okay, because it was a war that was different than all. It was an unpopular war in this country, so the people had a whole different mentality.
You've got to take the big view, and you've got to get involved in solving the
DAP, an acronym for Dignity and Pride, is much more than a handshake. It originated among black soldiers during the Vietnam War, who in addition to fighting for their lives on foreign soil, also faced attacks of racism, segregation, and reports of being shot and killed by white U.S. soldiers during combat. The DAP was developed by black soldiers as a symbol of strength and solidarity and their commitment to protecting one another.
My whole tour in Vietnam, when you met a black soldier, he had a DAP, he had a special handshake. You got to the point where you could even tell what part of the country he was from, because everybody had their distinctive DAP or handshake. And you definitely could tell if he wasn't in your company, because everybody had their little nuance.
This is the greeting. This is the greeting of my brother. I'm glad to see him. I don't have to know his name. Yeah. Just the fact that he's black is good enough for me. Then we know we got a common ground. We got a cause to fight.
Since the end of the Vietnam War, the DAP has broadened and become a part of mainstream American culture. However, we must never forget its original meaning of unity and taking care of one another.
It's really interesting talking about DAP, because I remember when I was in college, a lot of the guys were coming back from Vietnam with the dapping up. Everybody kind of had their own little handshake. It was really some of DAP that kind of reminded me a lot. And even now, when I'm walking down the street, I see some young African Americans walk by. I use a dap. Hey, what's up, bro? Dap them up. And so DAP still works even today. Okay. Next individual we're talking about is Colin Powell. He was a 4-star general. He also eventually became Secretary of State. Okay, which is really a really high position for African Americans even today.
Colin Powell was a groundbreaking figure in U.S. military history. Born in 1937 to Jamaican immigrant parents in Harlem, Powell's rise through the ranks was extraordinary. He joined the Army through the ROTC program at City College of New York and served 2 tours in Vietnam, where he developed strong leadership skills. Over time, Powell became a 4-star general, a rare achievement for African Americans at the time. In 1989, Powell became the first black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest military position in the U.S. under President George H.W. Bush. He played a key role in the Persian Gulf War, where he was known for advocating a strategy of overwhelming force known as the Powell Doctrine. After retiring from the military, Powell continued to serve the nation as the first black U.S. Secretary of State under President George W. Bush. His legacy as a soldier, diplomat, and leader endures, marking him as a pivotal figure in American history. Colin Powell passed away at the age of 84 on October 18, 2021, due to complications from COVID-19.
Yeah, Colin Powell, this guy was amazing in terms of what he had to go through to get where he was. Okay, and then be put in by George Bush, which is even more interesting. And last but not least, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. He was the previous one before Hesketh stepped in.
In the United States Army, Lloyd Austin met every single challenge with extraordinary skill and profound personal decency. He's the definition of duty, honor, country.
General Lloyd Austin proudly served his country for 41 years, but long before the Stars and Bars, he graduated from West Point in 1975 and had other ideas.
My plan was to do 5 years and then get out and go to law school. However, I quickly learned after joining the Army that I love soldiers, and I love being around soldiers, and I love being a part of a winning team.
Austin marshaled those teams around the world: Panama, Iraq, Afghanistan, and his military record, just remarkable. A Silver Star, 2 Legions of Merit, and a handful, no, make that a chestful of Distinguished Service Medals.
The most successful people in life are not concerned simply with their own success. They are motivated by the organization's success and the accomplishment of the mission.
One of his most accomplished missions came on the front lines, overtaking Baghdad during the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Both battle-tested and highly respected, Austin quickly rose through the ranks to become the Army's 200th 4-star general, just the 6th African-American to reach that rung, and the first black soldier to direct an entire war operation.
This business is all about people. We don't win our nation's wars simply because we have the most technologically advanced military in the world, and we do. We win wars because we have the very best people serving in our ranks. You are the first line of defense. And I know you take your job seriously. I take mine seriously, and part of my job is counting on you. And I know you won't let us down.
Born in Alabama, raised in Georgia, trained in battle, Austin boasts 2 master's degrees and a legacy of leadership. Under Barack Obama and Joe Biden, he assumed control of U.S. Central Command and oversaw all military maneuvers in the Middle East and parts of Asia. That meant being tasked with fighting terrorism.
There are no home runs in this business, but we have put a whole lot of runs on the board with base hits and walks and a few bunts. And nowhere is this more evident, in my opinion, than the ongoing fight against ISIL or Daesh.
He's down. Man down.
While appointing Austin as the country's 28th Defense Secretary and first of color, Biden praised the 67-year-old general as the definition of a patriot.
Yeah, this man was amazing. And for all you veterans out there, thank you. I mean, you African-American veterans fighting this war, you're amazing. And for this episode for you. And also, Daniel, I want to thank you. You're amazing, buddy. Appreciate all your work you've done for you. I mean, you're working hard, putting this videos out, doing this technical work. So I really appreciate you. And so until next week, I'll be back on December 9th. December 9th, Tuesday, December 9th. Okay, and I'll see you then. Thank you for your time.